The desert does not go silent at night, it hums. Beneath the cool wash of starlight, the air trembles with the faint droning of distant cicadas, the crunch of sand disturbed by the feet of nocturnal wanderers, and the whisper of wind brushing over stone. But in the invisible ultraviolet, a hidden world glows to life. Under a handheld UV lamp, the dunes shimmer as though dusted in blue fire, and from that glow steps a phantom, the black scorpion, its exoskeleton lit with an eerie blue-green luminescence that seems more alien than earthly. The creature is motionless, almost sculptural, but its body is a masterpiece of desert engineering. Every ridge, every plate of its armor is tuned to survive where most life simply withdraws. This glow is not light produced by the scorpion itself, but a reaction within its cuticle, a complex chemical cocktail locked into the upper layers of its exoskeleton. Scientists have identified compounds such as beta-carboline and 7-hydroxy-4-methylcoumarin that act as natural phosphors. When struck by ultraviolet radiation, they absorb the energy and emit it back as visible light. The evolutionary reason for this strange property remains an enigma. Some hypothesize that it acts as a form of light filter, shielding sensitive nerve cells from solar UV radiation. Others believe it may play a sensory role, allowing the scorpion to perceive its own exposure to moonlight, a primitive light meter built into its armor. Whatever the truth, this glow turns the black scorpion into one of the desert's most spectral residents, a living fossil that seems to belong equally to prehistory and the future. But under that hardened shell lies a surprisingly sensitive being. Along the legs, especially near the joints, thousands of minute hairs rise like antennas. These are not simple bristles. They are mechanoreceptors, finely tuned vibration sensors capable of detecting the slightest tremor through the sand. A beetle's footfall, a lizard's shuffle, even the faint breeze that carries the scent of rain, all register as patterns of pressure and frequency. Some of these hairs, known as trichobothria, can detect air movement as delicate as a single millimeter per second. Others sense ground-borne vibrations that travel meters through the substrate. In total, they form a distributed sensory net, a living seismic array that allows the scorpion to feel the world in ways vision could never manage. Its eyes, after all, are primitive. Scorpions have as many as 12, but their world is not built from clear shapes and colors. Instead, they perceive gradients of brightness, shifts of shadow and movement, enough to sense the outline of an intruder or the shimmer of prey, but not to map the fine detail of its form. Yet this limitation hardly hinders them. The desert floor is a language of tremors and chemical trails, and the black scorpion reads it fluently. When hunger calls, it does not roam recklessly. Instead, it excavates a burrow, a shallow chamber carved into sand or under stone, sealed by day and opened by night. Its claws, called pedipalps, are thick and muscular, designed not just for combat, but for delicate earthwork. Using rhythmic sweeps, it pushes loose grains aside, tamping the entrance into a smooth funnel. The air within the chamber remains cooler and more humid than the outside, preserving precious water that would otherwise vanish into the heat. Inside this fortress, the scorpion becomes a shadow waiting for motion. Prey often comes in the form of soft-bodied insects or small arachnids that wander too close. When vibration cues reach the sensory hairs, the scorpion freezes, a paradoxical stillness that is, in truth, perfect readiness. The instant the signal confirms direction and distance, it launches forward, claws first. These pedipalps serve two functions, to seize and to evaluate. They measure the resistance, the strength, the size of the captured animal. If the prey thrashes violently, the scorpion's tail arches overhead, poised to strike. Yet what follows is not blind aggression, but calculated precision. This is the metered sting, one of nature's most controlled uses of venom. Rather than inject a full dose, the scorpion tailors its strike to the situation. For small or harmless prey, a mechanical crush from the claws suffices. For larger or dangerous adversaries, such as centipedes or rival scorpions, the venom is meted out in higher concentration. Research has shown that scorpions adjust both the volume and potency of venom delivered through changes in muscular contraction around the venom glands. This strategy conserves energy and resources, as venom is metabolically expensive to produce. It also reveals a remarkable cognitive element. The scorpion assesses threat and benefit in the span of a heartbeat, choosing its response with ruthless efficiency. Venom itself is a biochemical marvel, a cocktail of peptides and neurotoxins evolved over hundreds of millions of years to disable without destroying. It targets ion channels in the nervous system, disrupting the prey's ability to control muscles, leading to paralysis within seconds. Yet despite this potency, the scorpion's sting is not its favorite weapon. It is a last resort, reserved for prey too resilient or predators too bold to be handled otherwise. Among the most striking aspects of scorpion life, however, is not its combat, but its care. After mating, a careful and ritualized dance that prevents accidental stinging, the female carries fertilized embryos within her for several months. When the young finally emerge, pale and fragile, they climb instinctively onto her back. There they remain, pressed against her armor, until their first molt hardens their own exoskeletons. This maternal phase is one of the most vulnerable in the scorpion's life. She hunts less, moves cautiously, and guards the brood with ferocity. Each juvenile depends entirely on her for temperature regulation and moisture protection. If she perishes, they die within hours. This moment of tenderness stands in quiet contrast to the brutal surroundings. The desert night is merciless, filled with predators that can overpower even an armored arachnid. Owls that hunt by sound, foxes that dig by scent, and centipedes whose venom rivals its own. Yet through millions of years, the black scorpion has endured. Its lineage stretches back before the dinosaurs, when giant relatives roamed the ancient seas. Its survival is owed not to strength alone, but to the combination of patience, sensory mastery, and chemical innovation. The essence of evolutionary engineering refined through time. When dawn nears, the phantom glow fades. The scorpion retreats into its burrow, sealing the entrance behind a plug of sand. The ultraviolet world goes dark again, the dunes once more appearing empty. But just beneath the surface, life still pulses in slow rhythm. The ghost of the night coiled in shadow, waiting for the next descent of the stars and the faint shimmer of the unseen light that will call it out again. Morning dew trembles along the veins of a milkweed stem as the camera glides through a miniature jungle. The sun is only a pale smear on the horizon, and every droplet refracts it like a gemstone. On one stem, no longer than a human finger, a sphere of glossy orange stirs, its surface marked with coal-black dots that glint like ink in the rising light. The ladybug awakens. To most eyes, it is a symbol of luck, an emblem of innocence often perched on a child's fingertip. But beneath the charm lies an evolutionary fortress. Every shade of its armor, every chemical in its blood, speaks the language of warning and survival, a message honed through countless generations of predation and peril. Aposematism, the use of bright colors to signal toxicity, is one of nature's most elegant deterrents. While mammals often rely on scent or sound to communicate danger, insects have mastered visual codes that speak directly to the primal circuits of predator brains. The ladybug's orange shell, technically hardened forewings called elytra, is not chosen for beauty, but for defense. Birds, reptiles, and even other insects quickly learn that bright red or orange means trouble. Experiments have shown that naive birds, after tasting just one ladybug, avoid similar colors thereafter. Inside this tiny beetle's body resides a biochemical arsenal, a cocktail of alkaloids and pyrazines that give off a pungent, bitter flavor strong enough to linger in memory. When threatened, the ladybug does not simply rely on color, it bleeds. From the joints of its legs ooze minute golden droplets, hemolymph laced with toxins. This phenomenon, known as reflex bleeding, is both dramatic and efficient. The act releases alkaloid compounds, most notably coccinylline and precoccinylline, that deter predators instantly. These chemicals are not merely repellents, they are part of a larger survival calculus. Producing them requires significant metabolic energy, so the beetle only deploys them when danger is imminent. The reflex is so sensitive that even slight pressure on the elytra can trigger it. To the human eye, it looks like injury. To a hungry bird, it smells like poison. This chemical warfare begins early in the ladybug's life, long before the shell takes on its iconic shine. The larval stage, often overlooked, is where the real carnage happens. Far from the delicate image of adulthood, ladybug larvae resemble tiny armored alligators covered in spines and mottled in black and orange. They are restless hunters, each capable of consuming dozens of aphids in a single day. Aphids, those soft-bodied sap feeders, are among the most destructive agricultural pests on Earth. Entire colonies can drain a plant of its vigor within days, leaving behind curled, yellowed leaves and sticky trails of honeydew that attract mold. The ladybug larva plunges headfirst into these gatherings, impaling victims with curved mandibles and draining them dry. Its metabolism runs hot, fueled by a near-constant cycle of hunting and molting. A single female ladybug may lay hundreds of eggs near aphid colonies, ensuring that her offspring hatch directly onto a ready meal. This precision is no accident. It is guided by chemical cues released by both the plants and the aphids themselves. Plants under attack emit distress signals, volatile compounds that float through the air like invisible cries for help. The ladybug's antennae can detect these molecules, guiding the female toward potential feeding grounds. In this way, the insect participates in a subtle web of ecological feedback, a miniature predator responding to the chemical language of plants and prey. As the larvae gorge, they grow rapidly, shedding their exoskeletons 4 times before entering the pupal stage. During this transition, their tissues liquefy and reorganize, the old body dissolving into the building blocks of the new. Inside that golden, motionless casing, enzymes break down muscle and nerve cells, recycling proteins to sculpt the adult form. The process, though hidden, mirrors that of butterflies and moths, a full metamorphosis where old instincts give way to new senses. When the adult finally emerges, its elytra are soft and pale, gradually hardening and deepening to the signature orange that will proclaim its toxicity to the world. But this transformation is not the end of the story. It is a beginning of a seasonal rhythm tied intimately to climate. In temperate regions, the ladybug's life must bend to the calendar. As autumn arrives and temperatures fall, food becomes scarce. Aphid populations collapse, and with them the feast that sustains the beetle. The ladybug must enter a state of suspended animation, a physiological pause known as diapause. This is not simple sleep. It is a controlled shutdown of metabolism, a retreat into stasis that can last for months. Before the first frost, ladybugs begin to gather. Drawn by the faint warmth of sunlit surfaces, they congregate on south-facing cliffs, tree bark, and even the walls of human homes. The clusters grow into living mosaics, thousands of beetles layered together in shimmering orange sheets. Within these masses, individuals benefit from shared insulation, the collective heat of many bodies reducing energy loss. The scent of aggregation pheromones ensures that once a group forms, others will join. To an observer, it looks like a quiet migration, a shifting organic blanket crawling over stone. By late autumn, many of these clusters move indoors, slipping through cracks in window frames or under roof tiles. There they will wait out the winter in a suspended calm, relying on stored fats and slowed respiration. Not all will survive. Temperature fluctuations, dehydration or fungal infections can take their toll. Yet those that endure will re-emerge in spring, ready to disperse and hunt once more. The rhythm of emergence and hibernation mirrors the rise and fall of aphid populations, ensuring that the predators awaken just as the prey begins to multiply. This synchronization, refined by countless generations, forms a subtle but crucial link in the ecological clockwork that keeps plant communities in balance. For gardeners and farmers, this ancient rhythm has long been a quiet ally. Long before chemical pesticides, ladybugs were the natural guardians of crops. Even today, they are deployed as living pest control agents in greenhouses and fields, a practice known as biological control. Unlike sprays that poison indiscriminately, These beetles target only the pests they evolved to consume. Each adult can devour hundreds of aphids during its lifetime, while its larvae consume thousands more. Yet introducing them requires care. Released too early, they may disperse before finding prey. Too late, and aphids may have already multiplied beyond control. Their value extends beyond agriculture. Ladybugs also serve as ecological indicators, sensitive to environmental changes such as pesticide exposure and habitat loss. Declines in certain native species have mirrored the spread of invasive ones, like the Asian harlequin ladybug, which outcompetes and even preys upon local varieties. This species, introduced for pest control, has now become a pest itself, a lesson in how easily the balance of nature can shift when human intent meets ecological complexity. Even within that complexity, the ladybug endures as an icon of resilience. From the cold void of winter attics to the sunlit chaos of spring meadows, it carries forward a design perfected through deep time. Its armor warns, its blood defends, its children harvest the pests that threaten the green world. When viewed under magnification, the polished dome of its shell reflects not just beauty, but purpose, the distilled logic of evolution, wrapped in color and chemistry. As the camera pulls back, the beetle resumes its slow climb up the milkweed stem. Below, aphids scatter in instinctive panic. Above, a bird lands, eyeing the bright sphere with curiosity, and then wisely turning away. The message has been received. The orange armor has done its work. In this tiny theater of survival, the ladybug remains what it has always been, a warning painted in living pigment, a sentinel against imbalance, and proof that even the smallest lives carry the weight of ecological consequence. A spring morning hums with life. Sunlight pools over the petals of tomato flowers and wild bluebells, each bloom trembling faintly in the mild wind. But the real vibration comes not from the air. It comes from a sound that seems to rise from the flowers themselves. A deep, thrumming pulse, like a muted engine running inside the garden's veins. The source appears, a carpenter bee, her body cloaked in velvet black, wings glinting like stained glass as she hovers before a blossom. She lands, grips the anther with her mandibles, and begins to vibrate. The sound shifts to a higher, more focused pitch, a controlled tremor driven by her flight muscles, even though her wings are still. In a fraction of a second, the flower explodes with golden dust. This is not simple pollination. It is a high-frequency heist. The act is called buzz-pollination, or sonication. It is one of nature's most precise tools for unlocking hidden pollen. Many plants, including tomatoes, blueberries, and cranberries, hide their pollen within sealed capsules called poricidal anthers. These anthers do not release their grains freely into the air. Instead, they must be shaken, and not just any vibration will do. The carpenter bee generates a specific frequency, often between 200 and 400 hertz, by decoupling her wings and flexing her thoracic muscles. The vibration passes through her mandibles into the flower, dislodging pollen in a fine, explosive cloud. To an observer, it looks almost mechanical, as if the bee were using a power tool crafted by evolution. This adaptation offers mutual benefit. The flower gains a reliable pollinator that ensures its reproductive success, while the bee collects protein-rich pollen to feed her brood. But the relationship is selective. Only certain bees, including carpenter bees and bumblebees, possess the ability to sonicate effectively. Honeybees, for all their fame, cannot perform this trick. Their flight muscles lack the precise decoupling mechanism needed to generate the vibration without flying. As a result, crops that depend on buzz pollination often yield better under the care of these solitary artisans. Once laden with pollen, the carpenter bee does not return to a hive. She is a solitary builder, an architect who shapes her own world. Finding an old fence post, wooden beam, or even a sun-bleached branch, she begins the process that gives her name meaning. With powerful mandibles, she chews into the wood grain, her jaws grinding the cellulose with patient rhythm. The entrance is perfectly circular, as if drilled by a craftsman's bit. Each tunnel may extend several centimeters deep before turning sharply to follow the wood's grain, forming a narrow corridor that leads to a series of brood cells. Inside, The walls gleam with a subtle polish. These surfaces are not carved randomly. They are smoothed with saliva, a natural antimicrobial coating that inhibits mold and bacterial growth. The bee partitions the corridor with thin walls of chewed wood pulp, dividing it into chambers. In each one, she deposits a carefully prepared loaf of pollen bread, a mixture of pollen and nectar bound into a dense, nutritious paste. Upon this golden cushion, she lays a single egg, sealing the cell with another wooden wall before moving on to the next. This meticulous process repeats until the gallery holds a row of perfectly spaced cradles, each one a tiny nursery awaiting life. The eggs hatch into larvae that feed on the stored provisions, their growth hidden from the world outside. The developmental timeline depends on temperature and season. In warmer months, new adults may emerge within 6 weeks, while in cooler climates, they may overwinter within the tunnels. When they finally chew their way out, the process begins anew. Some daughters will reuse the same galleries, extending the tunnels further, while others will seek fresh timber. Over time, an old beam can become a layered archive of generations, a wooden structure riddled not with decay, but with the geometry of persistence. Despite their solitary nature, carpenter bees often nest in proximity to one another, forming loose aggregations where many females share favorable timber. The males patrol these territories aggressively, hovering in front of intruders, human or insect, with startling bravado. Their large size, loud buzz, and direct flight paths can seem threatening, yet their aggression is pure bluff. Male carpenter bees lack stingers entirely. They cannot sting under any circumstance. Their job is intimidation, a form of evolutionary theater designed to protect mating rights without real combat. Females, meanwhile, possess stingers but rarely use them. They reserve that weapon only for direct threats to their nests. Even when handled, they usually choose retreat over retaliation. This misconception, that carpenter bees are dangerous, often leads to unnecessary fear and persecution. Homeowners, noticing circular holes in wooden siding, mistake the insects for destructive pests. In truth, their tunneling seldom causes structural damage unless infestations persist for many years without maintenance. The real harm comes from human overreaction, filling or spraying nests with chemicals that disrupt not only the bees, but also local pollination networks. These bees, often mistaken for their docile cousins, are in fact vital links in ecosystems where buzz-dependent plants rely on them for reproduction. The camera follows one female as she visits flower after flower, the sunlight catching the minute grains of pollen clinging to her hair-like setae. Each hair carries an electrostatic charge that helps capture the powder from anthers and release it onto subsequent blooms. It is not an accident of design. The charge arises from the friction of flight, turning the bee's body into a living magnet for pollen. Every landing, every buzz, transfers the dust that sustains entire plant lineages. As the day warms, the carpenter bee pauses to rest on a wooden railing. Her black abdomen glows faintly with reflected light, showing a sheen of metallic blue. Beneath that armor, flight muscles occupy nearly half her body mass, dense bundles of fibrillar tissue capable of contracting hundreds of times per second. These muscles do more than power flight. They maintain body temperature. Carpenter bees are endothermic in bursts, generating heat through muscular activity to keep their thoracic temperature stable even in cool weather. This thermoregulatory ability allows them to forage earlier in the morning and later into the evening than many other insects, extending their working hours in a competitive floral economy. The bee resumes her labor, returning to her nest entrance. Inside, the wooden chamber hums softly with life, larvae feeding, the faint rasp of mandibles against wood. This microcosm embodies the broader rhythm of spring, growth, preparation, and continuity. Each brood represents both a personal triumph and a collective service to the ecosystem. The plants benefit from pollination, the soil gains organic matter from fallen petals and decayed wood, and predators such as birds and parasitic wasps find sustenance from the same cycles the bees sustain. Nothing here exists in isolation. Every vibration, every tunnel carved, every grain of pollen moved contributes to the endless economy of life. There is subtle irony in the carpenter bee's relationship with human environments. The same wooden structures we build, fences, sheds, garden boxes, provide perfect nesting material. While we see them as uninvited tenants, they see opportunity. In the process, they become quiet partners in our cultivation, pollinating the very fruits and vegetables we grow. Some gardeners, recognizing this, install untreated wooden blocks or bee hotels to encourage nesting. These artificial habitats give the bees safe places to reproduce while preserving structural timber from damage. It is a simple gesture that connects modern design to ancient biology. As dusk falls, the hum of activity fades. The carpenter bee retreats into her tunnel, sealing the entrance lightly with sawdust and resin to deter predators. The air grows still, and the wooden post glows faintly in the last amber light of day. Within it lies a world carved by precision, galleries lined with care, chambers provisioned with pollen, and the low, rhythmic breathing of a life that will endure through the cycle of seasons. In a landscape dominated by fleeting flowers and shifting weather, the carpenter bee stands as a paradox, a solitary creature whose labor supports multitudes, a craftsman whose tools are muscle and mandible, and a pollinator whose buzz holds the key to the fertility of entire ecosystems. The sound that began as a simple vibration at a flower box fades now into silence, leaving behind the quiet truth that not all architects build for themselves alone. Some build for the balance of the world. The forest edge hums under late summer light. The air is thick with warmth, filled with the scent of ripening vegetation and the faint tang of resin from nearby pines. On a leaf of wild mustard, motion glints, subtle, deliberate, almost imperceptible. A shieldbug has landed. Its body catches the sun like a drop of burnished bronze. The flattened oval form, defined by clean geometric symmetry, looks more like a crafted emblem than a living organism. Yet every plate, pigment, and pore serves a purpose. Beneath this delicate armor, the shieldbug, sometimes called a stink bug, balances between invisibility and defiance, a specialist in both endurance and chemical warfare. At the center of this living shield lies the scutellum, a triangular plate that gives the insect its unmistakable silhouette. This hardened section of the thorax overlaps the wings and abdomen, creating a seamless shield that protects the softer tissues beneath. To the naked eye, it looks metallic, reflecting sunlight in subtle gradients of green and gold. But under magnification, the surface reveals a complex microtexture. The cuticle is covered with tiny wax crystals arranged like microscopic shingles. These hydrophobic structures repel water, causing raindrops to bead and roll away. In a habitat where sudden showers can drown or dislodge small insects, this ability is more than convenience. It is survival engineering. As the camera moves closer, the shieldbug's feeding behavior unfolds with methodical precision. Its mouthparts, long and needle-like, fold beneath its head when not in use. This beak, or rostrum, houses 4 slender stylets, 2 of which function like saw blades. With them, the bug pierces the tough seed coat of plants and probes deep into the tissue. Enzymes flow down the hollow channels, liquefying starches and proteins, which are then drawn back up as nutrient-rich sap. This seed-tapping strategy allows the insect to extract concentrated nutrition without consuming bulky plant material. Yet it comes at a cost. Feeding leaves telltale scars, and heavy infestations can stunt growth or spoil crops. Still, in the wild, this behavior is part of a complex web of regulation. One more thread in the ecological balance between plant vigor and insect appetite. The shieldbug's diet shifts subtly with the seasons. In spring, soft new shoots and developing fruits provide easy feeding. In autumn, mature seeds and pods require greater force to penetrate. Its mouthparts are reinforced with chitin, a natural biopolymer that rivals keratin in toughness, yet remains flexible enough to bend without breaking. The insect's salivary chemistry adapts accordingly, optimizing enzymes to dissolve specific plant defenses. This physiological versatility has allowed shieldbugs to exploit an astonishing range of hosts, from legumes to grains, from fruit trees to wild herbs. But the shieldbug's most famous adaptation is neither its armor nor its diet. It is its scent. Hidden beneath the thorax lie paired glands that produce volatile compounds known collectively as aldehydes and alkanes. When threatened, the insect releases these chemicals in a fine mist, producing an acrid, pungent odor that can linger for minutes. The defensive spray is potent enough to deter birds, lizards, and even predatory insects like assassin bugs and mantises. Some predators that ignore the warning find the taste unbearable and quickly spit out the insect. In nature, disgust can be an effective teacher, yet this stink serves another, subtler purpose. Shieldbugs are not entirely solitary. Many species display loose social behaviors, especially during the nymphal stages. The same chemicals that repel enemies can also act as alarm pheromones, triggering coordinated responses within a group. When one individual is attacked, others nearby may scatter or drop from the plant in unison, a synchronized escape that confuses predators. This dual use of scent, both weapon and warning, reveals how evolution shapes efficiency. The same molecule that burns a predator's tongue also mobilizes allies in defense. The relationship between nymphs and adults adds further depth to their biology. Nymphs, lacking wings and the full chemical arsenal of adults, rely on coloration and group behavior for survival. They cluster on stems, their bodies often patterned in striking black and red or green and yellow combinations, a warning palette known as aposematism. These colors advertise distastefulness even before the young can produce their full complement of defensive chemicals. Over successive molts, their coloration shifts toward the polished tones of adulthood, and the scutellum grows to its defining size. Color change, however, is not limited to growth. Adult shieldbugs undergo seasonal morphs, subtle adjustments in pigment and texture that allow them to blend with changing surroundings. In summer, when foliage is lush and green, their cuticle pigments lean toward emerald and lime. As autumn arrives and leaves fade, the same individuals darken, adopting bronze or reddish hues that mimic dying vegetation. These transitions are not the result of conscious choice, but of physiological triggers, shifts in light exposure and temperature that alter the synthesis of cuticular pigments. In effect, the insect's body reads the season, recalibrating its camouflage to match the visual language of its environment. This capacity for dynamic concealment is paired with a suite of behavioral defenses. Shieldbugs rely heavily on stillness. Their primary strategy when detected is not flight, but immobility. Their flattened form allows them to hug leaf surfaces, minimizing shadow and profile. When alarmed, they can drop suddenly, tucking their legs and falling into the litter below. The fall, though seemingly random, follows a precise sequence, a split-second release timed to coincide with predator motion. Once on the ground, they remain motionless, relying on their mottled ventral coloration to merge with soil or bark. Only after several seconds of silence will they stir again, resuming their slow climb toward sunlight. Predators have evolved countermeasures. Some birds learn to wipe the bugs against branches before eating them, reducing the odor by removing the gland contents. Certain spiders, immune to the chemicals, pierce the exoskeleton directly and feed without hesitation. Parasitic wasps, among the most specialized of all enemies, lay their eggs within shieldbug eggs. When the larvae hatch, they consume the developing nymph from within, leaving only empty shells on the underside of leaves. Such interactions underscore the constant evolutionary arms race, each adaptation met with an equal and opposite strategy of resistance. Despite these pressures, shieldbugs thrive across continents. Their resilience stems from more than armor and odor. Their physiology is remarkably adaptable to temperature extremes. During cool nights, they bask in early sunlight, orienting their bodies at angles that maximize heat absorption. The waxy microtexture of their cuticle not only repels rain, but also slows evaporative water loss, allowing them to persist in arid habitats where other insects desiccate quickly. Inside, their metabolic rate adjusts with precision, slowing during cold spells, accelerating when warmth returns. This thermal flexibility grants them an advantage in unpredictable climates and helps explain their success from tropical forests to temperate farmlands. In agricultural landscapes, however, this success can blur the line between marvel and menace. Some shieldbug species become pests, piercing developing fruits and seeds, causing blemishes and yield losses. Yet in wild ecosystems, their role is balanced. They feed on an array of plants, forming part of a complex nutrient cycle that transfers energy from flora to higher predators. Even their defensive chemistry has ecological value. The compounds released into the air influence nearby plants, triggering defensive responses that strengthen vegetation against other herbivores. The stink bug's warning, it seems, carries across species boundaries, a chemical echo that helps fortify the living network around it. As dusk settles, the leaf top glows with reflected amber light. The shieldbug, now motionless, sits as though carved from the plant itself. Dew gathers along the edge of its scutellum, rolling off in perfect spheres. Beneath its armor, biochemical currents slow, preparing for night. Around it, the forest exhales, a continuous exchange of scent, moisture, and vibration. In this intricate web, the shieldbug plays its part, armored, aromatic, and alert. Its life is a balance of contradiction, static yet responsive, beautiful yet repellent, solitary yet social. The camera lingers on the final bead of water sliding off the insect's back. It catches the fading light and vanishes, leaving behind the sheen of the shield, a symbol of survival refined by the chemistry of scent, the geometry of armor, and the language of alarm that has echoed through the leaves for millions of years. The air above the cotton field quivers with heat. Noon light bleaches the soil into pale glare, and the pods, rough, split, and sun-baked, hang heavy with bursting fiber. Across the brittle stems, movement gathers in flashes of scarlet and black. A slow, deliberate march of insects threads across the plants, each one carrying its color like a declaration. These are red cotton bugs, their carmine bodies edged with ink-black markings that look painted on with a steady hand. To the human eye, they may seem decorative, even striking. But in the language of the field, a dialect written in chemistry and instinct, this is not beauty. It is warning. The red cotton bug's coloration belongs to a broader evolutionary alliance known as Mullerian mimicry, an arrangement in which several distasteful or toxic species share the same visual signals to reinforce their message. Birds, reptiles, and even predatory insects learn quickly that such colors spell danger. Each encounter with one unpalatable insect teaches the lesson for all. In this case, the red cotton bug's scarlet and black uniform mirrors those of other warning-colored hemipterans, such as milkweed bugs and firebugs, creating a shared defense network through collective deceit. None of these species relies on speed or stealth. Instead, they survive by advertising what most prey hide, their presence. In nature's theater, honesty can be as effective as armor. To understand how this alliance endures, one must look beyond color to chemistry. The red cotton bug feeds primarily on the seeds of plants in the mallow family, including cotton and hibiscus. These plants defend themselves with secondary metabolites, tannins, alkaloids, and terpenoids that deter herbivores with bitterness or mild toxicity. The bug, however, has evolved to tolerate and even sequester these compounds in its tissues. Over time, the very chemicals meant to repel it become its shield. When attacked, the insect exudes droplets of oily fluid from glands in its thorax, releasing a pungent, slightly acrid odor. Predators taste it once and rarely twice. This system, combining bright warning colors with chemical defense, is one of evolution's most successful deterrents, replicated across countless species from butterflies to frogs. Yet the red cotton bug is not merely a passive beneficiary of its own armor. Its life unfolds in remarkable social complexity for an insect often dismissed as a pest. During the peak of the dry season, when the cotton pods split open under the sun, the bugs gather in dense clusters. Dozens may line a single stem, their combined color forming a vivid scarlet banner against the dull beige of the landscape. Aggregation offers many advantages. In cooler mornings, the tight clustering allows them to share warmth, their dark bodies absorbing sunlight more efficiently than any solitary individual could manage. This communal thermoregulation accelerates digestion and movement, vital for a species that must feed and mate within a short seasonal window. As the heat rises, the same clusters serve a different purpose: deterrence. A lone red insect might be ignored or doubted by a predator, A mass of them, shifting in unified color, reinforces the message of danger. This is the essence of Mullerian mimicry in action. The collective warning becomes a moving wall of memory for anything that hunts by sight. Even lizards and small birds that might test an isolated individual think twice before striking into a scarlet mass. Feeding, however, remains an individual task. Each bug wields a long, flexible proboscis, a piercing, sucking mouthpart typical of the true bug order Hemiptera. The insect inserts its beak into the seed or pod, injecting saliva rich in digestive enzymes that liquefy the contents. It then withdraws the fluid meal through the same channel. This process, known as extraoral digestion, allows the red cotton bug to extract nutrients efficiently without consuming fibrous material. While this feeding may cause blemishes or yield loss in cultivated cotton, it poses no harm to humans or animals. The species occupies a narrow ecological niche, tuned to exploit the seeds that form the foundation of its defense chemistry. As the camera follows the cluster, a curious behavior emerges. Two individuals locked together end to end, moving in awkward unison through the tangle of stems. This is the species' unique mating ritual, a prolonged tandem walk that can last for hours or even days. The male and female remain joined by their abdomens, their genital structures interlocked as they travel side by side or in opposite directions. This extended copulation serves multiple functions. It ensures fertilization while preventing rival males from mating with the female during the process, a form of mate guarding that extends well beyond the act itself. It also allows the pair to forage and navigate together, a slow but steady migration through the landscape. Such marathon matings might seem inefficient, but in evolutionary terms they make sense. In a dense population where individuals gather by the hundreds, the competition for mates is fierce. Remaining attached guarantees paternity. It also synchronizes reproductive timing within the group, leading to simultaneous hatching of the next generation. An ecological pulse that floods the environment with nymphs all at once, overwhelming potential predators. The strategy mirrors those seen in other insects, such as cicadas or mayflies, where safety lies in numbers rather than concealment. The nymphs, soft-bodied and wingless, emerge pale orange before darkening to the vivid red of their parents. They cluster on seed pods, their small size and collective coloration offering both protection and warmth. Lacking the full defensive chemical arsenal of adults, they rely heavily on aggregation and aposematic mimicry. Their growth proceeds through several molts, each one bringing more defined patterns until the final transformation into the glossy-winged adult. In this cycle, the rhythm of feeding, molting, and clustering continues the visual continuity of the warning parade that defines the species. From a distance, the effect is extraordinary, a living current of color flowing across the vegetation. The camera pans across a sunlit slope where dozens of plants shimmer with moving red dots. In ecological terms, this spectacle is more than display. It signals the health of a habitat rich in mallow and cotton relatives. Each bug, though small, participates in seed dispersal dynamics by selectively feeding on mature pods and avoiding unripe ones, indirectly influencing plant reproduction. Where pesticide use or habitat loss reduces their numbers, the absence can ripple outward, affecting the small birds and spiders that rely on them as prey, and the plants that depend on them to thin, dense seed stands. Even the nuisance of their feeding in wild systems contributes to equilibrium. The resilience of the red cotton bug lies not in its toughness, but in its strategy. Its body is soft, its flight slow, and its weapon chemical rather than mechanical. Yet through cooperation, timing, and shared warning design, it endures across continents, from Asian cotton fields to African savannas and tropical coastlines. The same crimson that once made it a symbol of pestilence in agriculture now marks it as a marvel of adaptive evolution. By afternoon, the heat intensifies, shimmering above the soil in visible waves. The bugs retreat to the shaded undersides of leaves, their color now muted in shadow but no less vivid. Some pairs remain connected, their tandem journey paused in stillness. Others continue feeding, unbothered by the passing of time. Above them, the field stretches in alternating stripes of white cotton and scarlet insect, a natural mosaic of defense and defiance. As dusk approaches, the light softens. The bright red fades toward maroon in the waning glow, and the field quiets. A small bird lands nearby, eyes the cluster, and then veers away, instinctively recalling a taste it would rather forget. The bugs remain, motionless, secure in the lesson they and their kind have written into the memory of predators over millennia. We are bright for a reason. In that final moment, when the camera lingers over the pods now half swallowed by shadow, the parade becomes still. Each red cotton bug stands as a living emblem of evolution's precision, a creature that survives not through speed or strength, but through honesty broadcast in color, chemistry, and unity. Under the quiet weight of the setting sun, the field holds its breath, the warning painted across its surface glowing faintly one last time before darkness folds it all into silence. The forest rests in stillness, but it is not silence. Under the canopy, the air trembles with slow rhythms. The whisper of leaves swaying, the faint rasp of cicadas, the careful shifting of something unseen. Amid branches and stems, motion becomes illusion. What looks like a twig catching the breeze suddenly takes a step. Its gait is unhurried, mechanical, almost uncertain, yet every pause and sway seems choreographed to the forest's own breathing. This is the stick insect, a master of invisibility whose survival depends on its ability to imitate not just the shape of its surroundings, but the behavior of the plants themselves. At first glance, it is nothing more than a narrow fragment of bark. Its limbs are elongated and jointed at perfect angles, mimicking the nodes of a twig. Its cuticle, matte and irregular, breaks light into dull reflections that blend seamlessly with the wood around it. Many species bear tiny knobs and ridges like buds. Others carry faint scars and speckles that look like lichen. This structural camouflage is not random artistry. It is evolution by repetition, shaped over millions of years of predation. Birds, reptiles, and small mammals have refined their senses in pursuit of movement, so the stick insect's greatest weapon is stillness. Yet even stillness has layers. The insect's disguise is not static but responsive. When wind stirs the branches, the stick insect joins the motion, swaying gently side to side. This is not reflex but strategy, a synchronized deception known as behavioral mimicry. In nature, even perfection can betray itself through inconsistency. A twig that does not move when all others do becomes conspicuous. So the stick insect has evolved to act in harmony with its environment, reading air currents through tiny sensory hairs and translating them into movement that looks entirely unintentional. Its slow, deliberate rhythm extends into every aspect of life. The camera follows one individual crawling along a fern stem. Each leg rises in a graceful arc, hesitates mid-air, then sets down with the softness of falling ash. The insect tests every surface with its tarsal pads before committing weight, ensuring the step makes no sound and no vibration that might betray its presence to nearby hunters. This care becomes vital when traversing the silken traps of another predator, the spider. Stick insects have been recorded crossing over inactive web strands, their limbs avoiding the radial threads that connect to the spider's sensory hub. They move like tightrope dancers, adjusting posture and balance so that no sudden shift disturbs the delicate architecture. It is not intelligence in the human sense, but an exquisite sensitivity to touch and tension, honed through ancestral necessity. Despite this precision, no camouflage is perfect. When detected, the stick insect turns to its secondary defenses, deception and endurance. Some species drop suddenly to the ground, entering a state of thanatosis or death feigning. The fall is calculated, legs tucked tight, antennae pressed against the body, posture rigid as if desiccated. For a predator accustomed to chasing living prey, the motionless form offers no reward. The insect may remain this way for several minutes or even hours, waiting until the threat has passed before resuming its slow march back to the canopy. Others employ startling contrast, bright flashes of color or wings patterned with false eyes, revealed only when disturbed, then hidden again as the insect folds back into stillness. Such diversity of tactics reflects an ancient lineage. Stick insects, belonging to the order Phasmatodea, have inhabited Earth's forests since the age of the dinosaurs. Fossil impressions from the Jurassic reveal ancestors almost indistinguishable from their modern descendants. Evidence of evolutionary refinement so effective that it required little change. Their success lies not in innovation, but in mastery of an ecological niche that rewards patience, restraint, and silence. For an animal so committed to invisibility, the stick insect's biology holds surprising dynamism. One of its most remarkable traits is regeneration. If a predator seizes a leg, the insect can shed it instantly, a process known as autotomy. The wound seals quickly, and over successive molts, the missing limb regrows. Regeneration requires energy and time, but it allows survival in a world where escape often demands sacrifice. Juveniles, which molt frequently, have the greatest regenerative potential, replacing even multiple limbs if necessary. Adults, which molt less often or not at all, have more limited recovery. This ability, though extraordinary, is not unique in the insect world, yet few species wield it with such precision, cutting away damage as neatly as pruning a twig. The molting process itself is a performance of vulnerability. In the safety of darkness, the stick insect suspends itself upside down from a branch. Its exoskeleton splits along the thorax, and with slow, almost liquid movements, the soft new body pulls free, legs and antennae unfurling like pale stems from a husk. For several hours afterward it remains motionless, its new cuticle soft and translucent. During this brief window, the disguise is imperfect, its color pale green or cream, reflective in moonlight. Once hardened, pigments darken and the body returns to its familiar woody disguise. Each molt not only restores form but resets the insect's camouflage to match the season's foliage, subtly adjusting tone and texture to blend with the environment's changing palette. Reproduction introduces another layer of subtlety. In many stick insect species, males are rare or entirely absent. Females reproduce through parthenogenesis, a form of asexual reproduction in which eggs develop without fertilization. The offspring are genetic clones of the mother, each carrying the same camouflage and behavior patterns that have kept the lineage alive. This strategy ensures population stability even in isolated habitats where finding a mate would be improbable. Some species can switch between sexual and parthenogenetic reproduction depending on conditions, a flexibility that few animals possess. It is a quiet form of evolutionary insurance, guaranteeing continuity even when isolation would spell extinction for others. The eggs themselves are masterpieces of mimicry. Each one is small and hard, resembling a seed or piece of debris. They often fall to the ground, where they blend among the litter of the forest floor. Some are equipped with tiny caps or knobs called micropilar plates, which resemble the nutrient-rich elaiosums found on real seeds. Ants, deceived by this resemblance, carry the eggs into their nests, where the capsules remain protected from predators and weather. When the young hatch, they crawl out of the tunnels and ascend back toward the canopy, beginning the slow cycle anew. This unintentional alliance between insect and ant is a quiet triumph of evolutionary design, camouflage extended to the very beginning of life. Predators, however, are not easily outwitted. Birds such as the drongo or the mantled gariza monkey have been observed learning to distinguish stick insects from twigs by minute inconsistencies, a misplaced shadow, an unnatural angle. In response, some stick insects take mimicry further, adopting not just the form of twigs, but of entire leaf clusters. Others simulate damage, bearing irregular tears and holes in their bodies that resemble insect bites or fungal scars. A few species even adopt leaf-mimicking wings, complete with vein-like patterns and margins curled as if nibbled. When disturbed, they sway and fold these wings to imitate leaves fluttering in the breeze, a deception so convincing that even trained observers can overlook them at arm's length. Amid this intricate dance of illusion, the stick insect occupies a paradoxical place in the ecosystem. Though a symbol of invisibility, it plays a visible role in maintaining forest health. By feeding on leaves, it helps regulate plant growth and nutrient cycling. Its droppings return organic matter to the soil, supporting microbial life that enriches the forest floor. In turn, the insect feeds a host of predators: spiders, lizards, frogs, and birds, forming a quiet but essential link in the chain of energy flow. Its camouflage may conceal it from sight, but not from ecological significance. As night deepens, the forest grows cooler. The camera lingers on a single branch, swaying in rhythm with the wind. At first, there is no movement, only the breath of air through foliage. Then, with subtle grace, the stick insect shifts, inching along its perch, antennae sweeping slowly through the darkness like divining rods. The choreography continues. One step, one pause, one perfect imitation of the world around it. It moves as the forest moves, guided by forces larger than itself, yet deeply attuned to every vibration. When dawn arrives, the creature is still there, invisible to all but the most patient eye, a living ghost of wood and will. In a world that often rewards speed and noise, the stick insect survives through the opposite virtues: slowness, silence, and the art of becoming indistinguishable from life itself. Its camouflage is not mere disguise, but a form of participation, an unspoken agreement with its surroundings. The forest moves, and so does it. The forest stills, and it becomes the forest. The forest floor of Madagascar is a living engine. Beneath its canopy of baobab shadows and strangler figs, every fallen leaf is part of a slow, continuous respiration. The jungle inhaling decay, exhaling new life. Push aside the damp litter and you enter a world of muffled movement. Pillbugs rolling like beads of armor, termites carving through rotted wood, ants foraging in regimented streams. And among them, heavier steps, deliberate, unhurried, steady as the ticking of an unseen clock. A dark shape glides over the leaf litter, polished and glistening like a seed come to life. Then comes the sound, a hiss, sharp and mechanical, echoing off bark and moss. Not from lungs, not from a mouth. This is air force through spiracles, the breathing holes that line the creature's sides, weaponized into sound. The Madagascar hissing cockroach announces itself not with venom or violence, but with breath. At rest, the hissing cockroach seems harmless, even gentle. Its domed body is cloaked in shades of mahogany and chestnut, its edges outlined with a faint golden band that catches light when it moves. The exoskeleton, divided into overlapping plates, is neither slimy nor dirty as many imagine, but clean and polished, a natural armor that repels moisture and debris. Contrary to myth, cockroaches are fastidious creatures. This species in particular spends much of its life grooming. Between foraging bouts, it runs its antennae through its mouthparts like fine combs, scraping away dust and fungal spores. The legs follow, each one methodically brushed and cleaned. The ritual serves more than vanity. It preserves the sensitivity of the antennae, the organs through which the insect perceives vibration, odor, and the faintest chemical change in its environment. Cleanliness, for the hissing cockroach, is survival. The hiss itself has many meanings, and each one tells a story of air, pressure, and social intent. Unlike most insects, which hiss only through friction or vibration, the Madagascar species produces sound through its spiracles, small openings along its abdomen used for respiration. When threatened or startled, it contracts its abdominal muscles forcefully, pushing air outward in a sudden rush. The resulting hiss resembles a burst of steam from a valve, startling potential predators and giving the insect precious moments to retreat into cover. But this alarm hiss is only the simplest of its vocabulary. Among males, the hiss becomes language. When two rivals meet on a piece of rotting wood or the edge of a fruit pile, the air thickens with tension long before the fight begins. They raise their bodies, flexing the pronotum, the broad, shield-like plate that covers the thorax, and emit long, drawn-out hisses that pulse rhythmically, each burst signaling strength and intent. Scientists have identified distinct patterns in these calls: short, staccato hisses that function as challenges, and longer, sustained ones used to establish dominance. The sound is not mere noise. It conveys social status. Larger males with greater muscle volume and stronger air pressure produce louder and deeper hisses, often deterring smaller rivals without physical conflict. When neither competitor yields, the confrontation escalates into what could best be described as an armored shove match. The two males face off, antennae thrashing, forelegs pushing against one another's pronotal shields. There is no biting, no tearing, only force, leverage and determination. The struggle may last several minutes, each combatant hissing between bouts of stillness as though refilling its air supply for the next surge. The victor eventually drives his opponent backward, securing prime territory, often a favored log or crevice rich in food and mates. Then, just as suddenly as the battle began, the tension dissipates. The winner, his dominance displayed and reaffirmed, resumes grooming, cleaning the dust of combat from his antennae. The defeated male retreats, uninjured but chastened. The encounter ends not in destruction, but in restoration of order. The social structure of the Madagascar hissing cockroach is more intricate than its humble appearance suggests. Colonies form loosely around food sources, fallen fruit, decaying leaves, and the soft wood of decomposing trees. Within these micro-communities, hierarchy governs access to resources. Dominant males patrol small territories, using their hisses both to deter intruders and attract females. The courtship sequence is an auditory performance. The male approaches the female with a soft, pulsing hiss, distinct from the harsh sounds of combat. He taps her with his antennae, circling slowly, releasing pheromones that drift through the humid air. If accepted, mating follows, brief and discreet amid the cover of leaf litter. Even here, sound shapes behavior, a language of breath passed through the forest's damp silence. To many, the word cockroach conjures images of filth and disease. Yet this species exists far from human homes and thrives not on waste, but on renewal. In the ecosystem of Madagascar's forests, hissing cockroaches serve as critical recyclers. They feed on dead plant matter, breaking down leaves, bark and fruit into smaller fragments that bacteria and fungi can further decompose. Their droppings, rich in nitrogen and organic matter, enrich the soil. This process, repeated by millions of individuals across the forest floor, sustains the fertility of the ecosystem. Without detritivores like these cockroaches, the buildup of undecomposed leaf litter would suffocate new growth and disrupt nutrient cycles. In effect, the hiss that startles predators is the voice of one of the forest's most important janitors. The cockroach's respiratory system itself is a marvel of engineering. Unlike mammals, which rely on lungs to draw in and expel air, insects breathe through a network of tracheal tubes connected to spiracles. These tubes deliver oxygen directly to tissues, bypassing the need for circulatory transport. In the Madagascar hissing cockroach, the spiracles are unusually large, allowing the controlled airflow required for hissing. Studies have shown that these insects can modulate their spiracle openings with astonishing precision, closing them to conserve moisture in dry conditions or opening them wide to release heat. This ability doubles as a thermoregulatory mechanism, helping the insect maintain functional body temperature even within the fluctuating climate of the forest floor. Life for the hissing cockroach unfolds largely in darkness. When night falls, the litter layer becomes a bustling metropolis. The cockroaches emerge to feed, guided by scent and vibration. Their diet is eclectic but clean. Decaying leaves, fallen fruit, bits of bark softened by moisture. They avoid fresh waste and carrion, preferring matter already softened by microbial activity. As they move, they spread fungal spores and bacterial colonies across the soil, aiding decomposition in ways unseen. This unseen labor transforms death into life, the forest's invisible economy of recycling sustained by countless quiet feeders. Predators abound in this world: frogs, lizards, centipedes, and birds that descend to snatch the unwary. Yet the cockroach's defenses, both chemical and acoustic, make it an unappealing meal. The hiss alone can startle a frog mid-strike or make a bird hesitate just long enough for escape. Even when captured, the insect releases short, sharp bursts of air, an audible protest that often causes a predator to loosen its grip. Its smooth exoskeleton and strong legs allow it to slip free, disappearing beneath leaves before pursuit can resume. In captivity, where these insects are often kept as models for study, Their calm demeanor and social behavior reveal intelligence of a quiet kind. They recognize familiar scents, show consistent dominance hierarchies, and even display cooperative cleaning, one grooming another's antennae in mutual maintenance. Observers who spend time among them often remark on their composure, the way they move with deliberate confidence, unhurried yet alert. There is dignity in their simplicity, an evolutionary success story written not in predation or speed, but in persistence. As dawn approaches, the forest breathes again. The hissing cockroaches retreat beneath the litter, their armor blending into bark and soil. The steam valve sound fades into the background chorus of insects waking for the day. In their absence, the air feels stiller, quieter, as if the forest has paused to inhale before the next exhalation of life. Beneath that silence, the work continues unseen. The slow breakdown of leaves, the recycling of nutrients, the pulse of respiration that never ceases. In a world where noise often signals violence, the Madagascar hissing cockroach uses breath as both defense and declaration. Its hiss warns, courts, commands, a language of air shaped by evolution's patience. And when the forest floor exhales again, it does so through 1,000 tiny spiracles, each one whispering the same ancient truth, that even the smallest creatures, breathing softly in the dark, keep the lungs of the world alive. Dawn spills over a milkweed patch on the edge of a North American meadow. The light is soft and low, turning dew into 1,000 tiny mirrors. Between the broad green leaves, a small striped caterpillar moves with steady intent. Its body is a pattern of yellow, white, and black bands, flexing like a living pulse as it chews through the milkweed's thick flesh. The air carries the faint bitterness of the plant's latex sap, toxic to most creatures, nourishing to a select few. The monarch caterpillar feeds undisturbed, immune to the poisons that would stop nearly every other herbivore in its tracks. In that immunity lies the foundation of one of the most remarkable survival stories on Earth. The milkweed's chemical defenses evolved long before the monarch appeared. Within its tissues lie cardenolides, potent cardiac glycosides that interfere with the cellular machinery responsible for pumping sodium and potassium ions, the very process that keeps muscles and hearts beating. For a mammal or a bird, a few bites can cause violent sickness, even death. But the monarch caterpillar's physiology has rewritten the rules. Its sodium-potassium pumps have evolved subtle structural differences, allowing them to tolerate the toxins. Rather than expel or neutralize the poison, the insect sequesters it, storing the cardenolides within its body fat. When predators later sample a monarch, whether larva, pupa, or adult, the taste alone is enough to teach a lasting lesson. The monarch's orange and black warning colors are no bluff. They are a statement of chemical fact. Over the next days, the caterpillar grows relentlessly. It molts through several stages, each time shedding its old skin like a suit grown too tight. With every molt, its appetite doubles. Milkweed leaves disappear in crescent-shaped bites, and the caterpillar's body swells with stored energy and toxins alike. When the time comes, it stops eating and wanders in search of a sheltered perch. Finding a suitable twig, it anchors itself upside down, forming a tiny hook of silk. Its body straightens, trembles, and then begins to change. Within minutes, the familiar stripes dissolve into fluid motion. A pale green chrysalis forms around the soft body, sealing it from the world. Inside this shell, a silent reconstruction unfolds. The caterpillar's tissues liquefy, and its cells reorganize into entirely new structures. Muscles are rebuilt. Wings form from previously invisible clusters of cells. Antennae, compound eyes, and new digestive organs take shape. This metamorphosis, one of nature's most dramatic transformations, is fueled by the energy stored during the larval phase. For nearly 2 weeks, the chrysalis remains still, its jade-green surface dotted with minute gold flecks that shimmer like metal in the light. When the time is right, it darkens, and the silhouette of orange wings becomes visible through the transparent shell. Then one morning, the casing splits open, and a fully formed monarch butterfly emerges, damp, trembling, but unmistakably regal. It clings to the empty chrysalis, wings crumpled and folded. Over the next hour, hemolymph, insect blood, pumps through the veins, expanding the wings to full span. As the fluid drains back, the wings harden, turning into the thin yet resilient panels that will carry it across a continent. The transformation is complete. What began as a plant-bound leaf feeder is now a traveler built for the open sky. The monarch's life cycle, repeated countless times each summer across North America, culminates in a feat of navigation unrivaled in the insect world. As autumn approaches, days shorten and temperatures cool. Instinct drives the final generation of monarchs to do something their parents never did: migrate. From as far north as Canada, millions take flight, each one following a path that leads them thousands of kilometers south to the highland forests of central Mexico. No single butterfly completes the full round trip. The journey is a relay across generations, an inheritance of orientation written not in memory, but in molecular code. Guidance comes from a sophisticated navigation system, combining both solar and internal compasses. The monarch's antennae contain photoreceptors sensitive to polarized light, invisible patterns created as sunlight scatters through the atmosphere. By reading these patterns, the butterfly determines the sun's position even on cloudy days. But sunlight alone is not enough. The monarch's internal circadian clock, housed within specialized neurons in the antennae and brain, compensates for the sun's movement across the sky. It calculates direction based on both time of day and light angle, maintaining a constant southwest course. When skies darken or orientation falters, a magnetic sense provides backup, allowing the butterfly to detect Earth's magnetic field and realign its route. This dual navigation, solar and geomagnetic, is a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. The journey itself is perilous. Winds buffet the fragile travelers. Storms, drought, and human obstacles fragment their path. Many perish along the way, caught in cold snaps or collisions with vehicles, poisoned by pesticides that linger on croplands. Yet the survivors press onward. In the right wind, they can travel more than 100 kilometers in a single day, their wings catching thermals and gliding effortlessly for minutes at a time. The aerial view below them shifts from farmland to desert to mountain. Those that reach Mexico settle in Oyamel fir forests that crown the Sierra Madre. There, in the thin, cool air, they cluster by the millions, covering trunks and branches in living layers of orange and black. The forest floor glows as if autumn itself had taken roost. Winter in these sanctuaries is quiet. The monarchs enter a state of suspended animation, their metabolism slowed by the cold. They cling together for warmth and protection, forming dense colonies that maintain stable microclimates. As spring nears, the temperature rises and the colonies stir. The butterflies mate, and the females begin the long flight northward, laying eggs on milkweed plants as they go. Their offspring continue the migration over successive generations, inching northward until summer finds the species once again scattered across the continent. No individual returns to the same tree, yet the collective memory of the route endures, an instinct passed through time, guided by an unbroken thread of genetic information. The monarch's reliance on milkweed makes it both specialized and vulnerable. In natural ecosystems, this plant thrives in open meadows and disturbed soils, its white sap a symbol of defense. But in modern agricultural landscapes, milkweed has been driven out by herbicides and habitat loss. Roadsides and field edges, once the migration corridors of caterpillars, have been cleared or sprayed, leaving the butterflies fewer places to breed. Even the flowers that fuel adult monarchs on their journey have become scarce as pesticide use intensifies. Every roadside wildflower matters. It is a refueling station on a continent-spanning flight. Without them, the travelers falter. Conservationists have learned that protecting the monarch requires more than admiration. It demands practical understanding. Restoring native milkweed patches across farmland, maintaining wildflower corridors along highways, and limiting the use of insecticides that kill indiscriminately all play critical roles. Each act supports not just the butterfly, but the ecological web around it. The bees that share its nectar sources, the birds that depend on those insects, and the plants that rely on pollination to reproduce. Beyond the science, The monarch's story embodies resilience on a continental scale. Its colors are not mere decoration, but a declaration of survival through chemistry. Its migration is not a wandering, but a generational memory written in instinct. In every flutter of its wings lies the rhythm of the planet itself, light guiding life, cycles turning endlessly, danger and endurance bound together in one fragile form. As the camera closes in on a single monarch basking on a late autumn flower, the veins of its wings gleam in the sun. The orange burns brighter against the dark margins, the ancient signal of toxicity that warns predators to stay away. Yet to human eyes, that same orange reads as beauty, a symbol of freedom. The butterfly takes off, rising into the blue, one small traveler among millions, armored in color and guided by the quiet machinery of the Earth's magnetic and solar fields. Its journey will end in a forest half a continent away, where the next chapter of the same story begins.
In that endless cycle of death and renewal, poison and beauty, instinct and endurance, the monarch remains what it has always been, a living bridge between plant and sky, between science and wonder. In the lowland forests and gardens of Southeast Asia, light filters through the canopy in fractured geometry, patches of gold scattered across a living tapestry of green. Among the leaves and flowering hedges, movement catches the eye. A sudden flash of orange, black and white, edged like torn silk. A butterfly darts in and out of the sunlight, each wingbeat a pulse of color. The creature seems almost too bright for its surroundings, its palette burning against the subdued background. Yet this flamboyance is not vanity. It is survival made visible. This is the leopard lacewing, Sethosia cyane, one of nature's most striking examples of toxic beauty, and a species that wears two very different faces depending on its gender and stage of life. At rest, the butterfly's wings close over its back, revealing a cryptic underside patterned in browns and grays, the perfect imitation of a dried leaf. But when it opens them, the transformation is immediate and startling. The upper wings explode with deep oranges and crimsons bordered by black, each margin saw-toothed with white crescents. Along the edges, the scales are serrated, giving the wings a lace-like texture that catches and fractures the light. The design is more than ornamental. It is a form of aposematism, a visual warning to predators that this is not a meal worth taking. The leopard lacewing, like the monarch, is laced with plant-derived toxins stored from its caterpillar days. Its larval host plants, primarily species of passiflora, the passion vines, defend themselves with a chemical arsenal of cyanogenic glycosides, compounds capable of releasing cyanide when metabolized. Most insects that feed on these leaves die within minutes. The lacewing caterpillar, however, not only tolerates the poison, but co-opts it. Specialized enzymes in its gut neutralize the immediate toxicity, allowing the compounds to accumulate harmlessly in fatty tissues. These stored toxins remain through metamorphosis, seeping into the adult butterfly's body and scales. When a bird or lizard samples one, the bitter taste and ensuing nausea ensure that the memory and the warning colors will not be forgotten. The butterfly's name owes as much to its delicate outline as to its behavior. When in flight, it drifts and flutters like a falling petal, rarely holding a straight path for long. Yet this grace conceals precision. Males patrol their territories along hedges and flowering clearings, tracing zigzagging routes that seem erratic, but actually follow the scent trails of nectar sources and potential mates. Each patrol is a declaration of ownership. The airspace becomes a stage for performance, one built on stamina and visual spectacle. Intruding males are chased with bursts of speed and tight aerial spirals, wings flashing in alternating bursts of orange and shadow. Unlike butterflies that rely on physical combat, the leopard lacewing's contest is one of endurance and display. The victor is not the strongest but the most persistent flyer, the one whose colors and movements hold the longest against fatigue. Sexual dimorphism, the difference in appearance between males and females, reaches remarkable clarity in this species. The male, dressed in vivid oranges and sharp blacks, advertises his toxicity with bold contrast. The female, in contrast, is more subdued. Her wings are a wash of white and grey mottled with brown,
her outer margins patterned like cracked bark. Where the male flaunts danger, the female cloaks herself in restraint. This divergence reflects their differing roles in survival. The female must move unnoticed among vegetation as she searches for suitable vines to lay her eggs. Her subdued coloration serves as camouflage, reducing the chance of interception by predators while she performs the crucial act of ensuring the next generation. When a male encounters a receptive female, their interaction unfolds as a brief but intricate choreography. He hovers close, fanning his tail in short bursts that release pheromones from specialized scent glands located near the abdomen. These chemical signals, invisible but potent, drift toward the female, carrying the information of his species, health, and readiness to mate. The fan display also creates tiny air currents that help disperse the scent, enhancing its reach. If she is receptive, she responds by holding still, allowing him to approach and align. The courtship lasts only a few seconds, but in that moment, multiple communication systems, visual, chemical, and kinetic, converge in perfect synchronization. After mating, the female seeks her host plant with methodical patience. Using chemical receptors on her feet and antennae, she tests the surface of leaves until she identifies the right species of passiflora. The eggs, laid singly or in small clusters on the underside of leaves, hatch into spiny caterpillars colored in crimson and black, a clear warning, even at birth. These larvae feed on the toxic foliage, their bodies slowly growing heavier with sequestered poisons. Their red hue, amplified by the morning sun, signals danger to any predator that might dare to test them. The cycle of warning and deterrence begins anew. The leopard lacewing's aposematic strategy extends beyond the individual. In regions where it overlaps with other toxic butterflies, such as the crimson-tipped Cythosia biblis, a phenomenon known as Mullerian mimicry occurs. Different species converge on similar color patterns, strengthening the shared warning signal. Predators, unable or unwilling to distinguish between them, learn faster and avoid all insects bearing the same markings. It is evolution's version of cooperative defense, survival through collective appearance. The name lacewing hints at fragility, but these butterflies are remarkably resilient. Their wings, though thin, are composed of layered scales that interlock like tiles, each one overlapping to reduce tears. Even with edges that appear tattered, the structural integrity remains intact. The scalloped margins, far from ornamental, help disrupt the flow of air around the wings, reducing turbulence and allowing efficient gliding. When examined closely, each scale bears microscopic ridges that scatter ultraviolet light, wavelengths visible to other butterflies, but not to most predators. What appears to human eyes as simple orange is, in the ultraviolet spectrum, a complex array of hidden patterns used for species recognition and mate attraction. In the heat of midday, when many insects retreat into shade, the leopard lacewing remains active. Its wings absorb solar radiation, raising body temperature to the level necessary for muscle efficiency. As a result, it can outfly cooler-bodied rivals, claiming nectar resources others cannot reach. Yet this same heat demands regulation. Between flights, the butterfly perches with wings half open, angling itself precisely to modulate sun exposure. The act appears idle, but it is a controlled balance of thermoregulation, maintaining just enough warmth for flight without overheating delicate tissues. Predation still shapes the lacewing's world, despite its chemical armor. Birds that rely more on sight than taste may strike first and regret later. Spiders that sense only vibration in their webs can trap even the most toxic of insects. The lacewing has developed evasive responses. It often patrols below the typical web height, flying low through hedges where silk threads are sparse. When resting, it positions itself along twigs, not across them, minimizing the risk of detection. Its eyes, compound mosaics of thousands of ommatidia, grant nearly panoramic vision, allowing it to detect approaching motion in almost any direction. Reaction time becomes its first line of defense, toxins its last. In gardens where the butterfly flourishes, its presence signals ecological health. Passion vines, once considered weeds, become nurseries. The nectar-rich flowers it visits also attract bees and other pollinators, creating a cascade of interlinked relationships. Each stage of its life supports another layer of the environment. Caterpillars pruning overgrowth, adults facilitating pollination, their remains enriching the soil. Even the warning coloration that deters predators contributes indirectly to balance. By surviving, they sustain their own predators' restraint, teaching through consequence. As the afternoon light deepens, a male lacewing resumes his patrol. He weaves along the edge of a hedge, wings flashing like stained glass in motion. His territory is a narrow strip of sunlight, a corridor rich with blossoms and rivals alike. For a moment he hovers, tail fanning, antennae vibrating. Then he vanishes into the brightness, a blur of color, soundless and deliberate. What remains is the impression of movement and color, a memory of warning carried on the air. In a world that rewards deception, the leopard lacewing thrives by declaring the truth. I am dangerous, I am alive, and I am not to be touched. Its colors are its armor, its toxins its shield, and its flight a quiet demonstration of how beauty and peril, evolution and art, can coexist in perfect balance. The pond lies still beneath a lattice of reeds, its surface so calm it might be mistaken for glass. But what appears as silence is, in truth, an invisible tension, a film stretched tight between water and air, holding light, dust and life in delicate balance. The first disturbance comes not from wind or falling leaf, but from motion too small to break that surface. Tiny dimples appear, spreading in rings across the mirrored plane. From above, the ripples look like punctuation marks written in liquid. From below, they are the shadows of hunters. A water strider glides into view, moving with impossible grace, skating across the pond as if gravity has been rewritten. Its legs do not pierce the surface. Instead, each foot presses a shallow dimple into the water, a perfect circle that reflects the world upside down. The insect's body floats above these dimples like a suspended bridge, poised and motionless, until the next stride sends it gliding forward in a burst of speed. Every movement is powered by the mathematics of surface tension, that thin boundary layer where cohesive water molecules cling together more tightly than they do to air. The strider has evolved to exploit this invisible field with astonishing precision. The secret lies in its legs. Each one is covered in thousands of microscopic hairs, known as setae, tipped with even finer nanogrooves. These grooves trap air, forming a cushion that resists the water's surface. The result is extreme hydrophobicity, a natural waterproofing so effective that even when submerged by accident, the insect pops back to the surface, as if repelled by the water itself. The long middle legs, specialized for propulsion, strike the surface in quick, synchronized strokes. The rear pair steers and stabilizes, while the shorter front legs are poised to grasp prey. Every stride generates a controlled ripple, converting the energy of muscle contraction into surface wave motion. But this motion is not mere locomotion, it is language. Water striders live in a world of vibrations. The surface they walk upon is both floor and messenger, a taut membrane that transmits information faster than sight. When one strider flicks the surface with its leg, the resulting wave radiates outward like a coded signal. Different frequencies and amplitudes convey different meanings. Slow, rhythmic pulses are invitations for courtship. Sharp, irregular bursts announce aggression or territorial defense. Rapid sequences can be alarm calls, warning others of danger. Through this ripple-based communication, entire social dynamics unfold across the pond's surface without a sound. In early spring, when males stake out small territories along pond margins, the water's calmness becomes alive with coded vibrations. A male positioned on a floating leaf drums his legs lightly, sending rhythmic pulses toward a passing female. The pattern is unmistakable, a repetitive courtship signal spaced in exact intervals. The female responds not by sight but by feel, detecting the waves through specialized sensors in her leg joints. If receptive, she glides toward him, her own movements deliberate and silent. If not, she vanishes across the surface, leaving a faint echo of fading ripples. Males that persist too aggressively risk attracting not mates but rivals. In that same ripple language, combat begins, sharp bursts exchanged like verbal insults, escalating until one retreats. The strider's dominance over this fragile plane is more than mechanical mastery. It is ecological necessity. Every predator and prey that meets here must navigate the paradox of a surface strong enough to support weight, yet thin enough to break under pressure. For most insects, it is a boundary, a line between life and drowning. For the strider, it is a battlefield. A mosquito larva surfaces near the water's edge, wriggling just below the tension line to breathe through its siphon. The disturbance draws immediate attention. The water strider pivots, aligning itself with the minute vibrations. In a flash, it accelerates, a single kick propelling it forward several times its body length. Upon reaching the ripple's source, it lashes out with its front legs, seizing the larva before it can dive. The mosquito's soft body breaks the surface film, instantly trapped between water and predator. The strider plunges its rostrum, a piercing, tube-like mouthpart, into the prey. Salivary enzymes flow in, dissolving tissues into a liquid meal. Within seconds, the larva is reduced to a thin husk, and the strider resumes its patrol, gliding effortlessly across the rippling aftermath of its hunt. This feeding strategy, known as extraoral digestion, allows the strider to consume prey far larger than its mouth could mechanically process. It targets anything that disturbs the water's skin, drowned ants, flies, even smaller striders. In turn, it faces its own predators, fish rising from below, birds striking from above. Its only refuge is the very physics that sustains it. When startled, the strider can spring away in a fraction of a second, using the repulsion between its legs and the water's surface to generate thrust without breaking tension. In air, it weighs almost nothing. On water, it wields that weight like a weapon. The balance it maintains is fragile. The tiniest disturbance in water chemistry, oil film, detergent residue, pesticide runoff, can break the cohesion of surface tension, collapsing the platform that sustains its world. In urban ponds where pollutants scatter like invisible dust, water striders often vanish, victims not of predation, but of physics undone. In natural settings, however, they thrive as indicators of purity, living testaments to the cleanliness of their domain. Their presence means the water still holds its ancient balance. The strider's adaptation even extends to climbing, an act that seems impossible for a creature built to float. Yet, when faced with the curved meniscus at the pond's edge, that upward sweep where water clings to solid surfaces, it performs a feat of engineering elegance. It approaches slowly, legs splayed wide. Each step compresses the surface slightly, creating tiny indentations that deform the meniscus. By shifting its weight and adjusting leg angles, it uses this deformation to generate an upward force, effectively walking uphill on liquid. The insect ascends the curve, reaches a stem, and transitions seamlessly from the water's surface to a leaf. In this moment, it crosses a physical boundary most animals cannot, from a world ruled by tension to one ruled by gravity. From a scientific standpoint, the water strider is an object lesson in fluid mechanics. Its entire existence depends on maintaining the balance between weight, drag, and surface resistance. The dimples beneath its feet form not just by chance, but by measured displacement of force across the surface tension threshold. Researchers studying its gait have found that it never fully lifts its legs from the surface. Doing so would risk breaking the cohesive layer. Instead, each stride transfers pressure smoothly, maintaining continuous contact and minimizing disturbance. In engineering terms, it is a dynamic equilibrium, a moving solution to a stationary equation. Yet the insect's life is far from sterile mathematics. Under moonlight, the pond becomes a galaxy of reflections, and the striders turn into constellations in motion. They gather at night around floating vegetation where mating pairs form. The males defend small territories no larger than a human hand, driving off rivals with bursts of ripple pulses and quick jabs of their forelegs. Females deposit eggs on submerged stems, where the larvae will hatch into aquatic nymphs before taking to the surface themselves. From birth, the young must learn to balance atop the skin of water. Failure means drowning within minutes. The survivors inherit not just the form, but the instinctive choreography of movement that defines the species. As dawn returns, mist rises from the pond's mirror. The water strider, silhouetted against the glowing reflection of the sky, makes its final climb. It approaches the meniscus once more, negotiating the upward curve toward a leaf. Its body shifts, angles adjusting in perfect compensation for changing tension. Then, with a final step, it crosses onto solid ground. Behind it, the surface heals instantly. Dimples vanish, ripples fade, and the mirror reforms, flawless once again. Here, at the meeting of air and water, physics and biology merge. The strider is neither swimmer nor flyer, but something in between, a creature that has turned a law of nature into a living bridge. Its world exists in fractions of millimeters, yet its mastery of that world embodies the precision of natural design. To watch it glide is to see equations made flesh, to glimpse evolution not as chance but as problem-solving perfected by time.